Have any of you ever heard of this website called Quora? I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, it's one of these websites where people can go and ask questions, and other people who have a knowledge about that question can answer it. From what it looks like, it seems like it is a less retarded version of Yahoo Answers, which is just full of trolls and bullshit. I noticed that Quora also has a section dedicated to HP Lovecraft, as well as Cthulhu. So I went through the whole list there, and I saw some interesting questions that people were asking. And I thought it'd be fun to make a video of me answering these questions. Now, I'm not a brilliant expert on HP Lovecraft. I'm not ST Joshi or something. But I do have a fair working knowledge about the man and his works. So I think that I stand a good chance of answering these questions with some level of accuracy. Let's answer some questions. What's the most powerful entity in the Cthulhu mythos? That would be Azathoth. Azathoth is described as being like the center, the nuclear chaos and all that everything revolves around, you know, and like beings like Nyarlathotep are sort of servants or emissaries of Azathoth, and Azathoth doesn't really have, as far as I understand, a will really. It's just like this thing that exists, sort of like a force of nature, but it is beyond conception, you know. It's even like, it makes Cthulhu look ordinary and everyday. And in general, Azathoth just looks like this massive writhing tentacles, I suppose. As is the way of most Lovecraftian monsters. Does anyone think HP Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth has a happy ending? I actually thought about this a while ago. Basically, the ending, spoiler alert, but I'm assuming you've seen it. The ending involves Robert Olmsted, the protagonist, finding out that he has Deep One blood in his ancestry, and he eventually, after escaping Innsmouth, he begins to show signs of the Innsmouth look, and eventually he realizes, well, this is my fate, I'm screwed, I have to become a Deep One, this is it. And then he makes plans to actually dive down with his, I think it was his cousin who was locked up in a mental asylum, to dive down into Johanneth Lay. Is it a happy ending? It's kind of like a fatalist ending, isn't it? You know, you just accept your fate, like this is it. Maybe it's a case of, and a very extreme case of, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You know, well, it's pretty extreme, because, you know, you say you kiss your humanity goodbye, and in that story, one of his other relatives, Uncle Douglas, I think it was, killed himself when he found out that he had the Innsmouth blood in him. So it's not really happy. I mean, it depends on how you view on it, right? You're kissing your humanity goodbye. It's gone. You're not going to be a human anymore. You will transform fully and be a Deep One. So how much do you value your humanity? Would you rather kill yourself, or say, fuck it, let's see what happens? Personally, I don't know. Personally, I think I would just roll with it. I don't think I'd kill myself. I'd see what the hell happens. I mean, being a Deep One's gotta have some perks, right? Would Lovecraft's fans be outrageous? I think that's supposed to say outraged. Would Lovecraft's fans be outraged if someone rewrote his story or did whatever to distort it? Outrage? Me? I don't think so. I am very calm when it comes to people rewriting Lovecraft for their own political means, especially if it's leftist political means. I just love that shit.
That's a huge bitch!
Well, let's see what my previous self said in this video. This woman has hollowed out Lovecraft and basically kept, it's like a fucking pumpkin, right? But she hollows it out, scoops out all the stuff that makes a pumpkin nice and juicy, okay? She's left the shell, okay? And then she's taken a fucking fist, lubed it up with whatever KY gel she uses to fist her cats with, shoved it right up there, and just inserted social justice right into this fucking pumpkin. Now, you see, I'm completely calm when it comes to people rewriting Lovecraft. Is it wrong for an African American or any minority to read the works of HP Lovecraft? Absolutely not. I don't think that at all. And I say this even assuming I am black or something like that. I think, yeah, there's no problem, you know. The thing with Lovecraft is that everyone is equally fucked if Cthulhu wakes up. Everyone is equally fucked if the Deep Ones rise up. Humanity as a whole is screwed. in any of these situations, you know, in Lovecraft stories. So it's not that, you know, one group of humanity, whichever one you can imagine, is going to be better off than the other, you know. So we're all in it together, basically. And humanity was created as a whole by the Elder Things at the Mountains of Madness. That's what it says there. So in that way, Lovecraft, despite being quite a racist guy, everyone in his stories is in the same position. Of course, if you're Black American and then you read like that poem that he wrote there when he was very young, it was called On the Creation of Niggers or something like that. Obviously, if you read that, you can think, wow, this guy's an arsehole. He's saying this about the group I come from, you know. But I think he really mellowed out a little bit when he got older. But that's still, obviously that's still going to lead to some hurt feelings if you see this thing and he's making a whole poem about how you're subhuman or something like that. But I think that if you can put that aside, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese, Black, a woman, a man, a 13-year-old, a 90-year-old person, it doesn't matter. Basically, you can empathize with the characters. I mean, for example, if you look at Randolph Carter from the Statement of Randolph Carter, the story doesn't become less scary or more scary if Randolph Carter is a black guy, okay? And it doesn't actually even designate his race. So if you made an adaptation of the Statement of Randolph Carter and the guy was black, I really wouldn't care, you know? And this is coming from some guy who really gets pissed off when they make white characters black, like they make James Bond, they want to make him to a black guy like Idris Elba. So was the rumor, but like James Bond is a white guy. But in the Statement of Randolph Carter, it's not really specified, right? So I'd be completely cool with Randolph Carter being a black guy. I guess you could even make him a woman. I suppose it wouldn't matter, but you'd have to change the name from Randolph. It can be a Chinese guy, a Korean guy, it doesn't matter. It's still the equal amount of fear in that story. Was HP Lovecraft an unrecognized genius? Did the world did injustice to him when he was alive? Okay. Okay, the first part, was he unrecognized genius? It sounds a bit like brown nosing, but yeah, I think he kind of was. I mean, he's recognized now, but back then he was very unrecognized. And obviously the guy revolutionized horror. Sorry, I said that word terribly. I had a bit of wine, excuse me. Yeah, I think he was unrecognized, but now he is a lot more recognized, and I think he was a genius because he really, what his contribution to horror is unlike, I mean really, if you have to come up with the top 3 people that revolutionized horror and contributed the most to the genre, I would put him easily in the top 3, if not number 1. That's just my opinion. Did the world did injustice to him? Okay, sorry, this person's bad grammar, not mine. No, actually I don't think so. I think Lovecraft torpedoed himself a lot. He hindered himself. For example, he never really pushed himself to be a writer, first and foremost. He wrote for himself. He published only seldom in, you know, old magazines, pulp magazines. It's not really mainstream reading, even back then. He never really took a lot of money for doing work. He always undercharged himself. If people didn't send the money, he just sort of said, let it go. You can't be a gentleman and then be, you know, it's very low class to go groveling after the paycheck and stuff like that. And then he was also a very hard guy to work with. You know, he doesn't want any alterations to his works. So he wasn't the easiest guy to work with, and also he wasn't really pushing himself to be a great writer. He sort of seemed satisfied with just writing for himself and in his own little circle of friends. So the world did not do injustice to him by not making him popular in his own lifetime. I think most of the blame lies on himself. What level of ethnocentrism and racism did Lovecraft have? I'm not exactly sure about this one, so I better ask someone. Hold on.
Hey Vegeta, what is his racist power level at?
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Okay, but seriously, I think people often say that he was a product of his time, and definitely back in the you know, 1910, 1920, 1930s, people were a lot more racist back then, for sure. But I think he was a little bit more a racist than the average person on the street, you know. Definitely, he seemed to really loathe foreigners, you know, foreigners more than anything. But after his trip to New York City, he sort of mellowed out a lot more, you know. He started, I mean, he had to mingle with other people, and obviously he didn't like it. As you can see in the Horror of Red Hook, that story, which was all about how he just loathed these fucking foreigners everywhere. But he definitely mellowed out a lot after his trip. I mean, for example, he befriended Jews. One of his best friends was Samuel Loveman. He married a Jew. And then he also just like trivial things, like he started to eat more ethnically diverse foods and stuff. For example, I read one passage in I Am Providence where he actually goes out and has Chinese food and admits to actually liking it, you know. Like the old Lovecraft, he would never do that, but after his trip to New York, he mellowed out a bit. So he was probably still very racist then, but he mellowed out a bit. If I love reading HP Lovecraft's work, what else should I read? Firstly, I would recommend Thomas Ligotti. And then I would recommend Junji Ito. And then thirdly, I would also recommend a Polish author, Stefan Grabinski. All three of those guys, Ligotti, Ito, and Grabinski, they all sort of deal with Lovecraftian type horror, but all in their own style. So they're all very unique and individual authors, but they all deal with sort of cosmic horror type themes in their stories. Okay, that's it for this video. There's plenty more other Quora questions I found, but I don't want to do them all at one go, otherwise the video is going to be like 40 minutes long and that's just too much. I can make another video, like a part 2 and a part 3 of other Quora questions. I'll see how this video does and if people like it or not, and go from there. So of course, all the answers I gave to these questions are just my personal opinion, and anyone else can feel free to give in their answers. What do you think the correct answer to these questions was? Let me know in the comments and maybe we can have a nice discussion. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Cheers.